Welcome to our next level 3 critical path analysis video. In the last video, we chatted about what is critical path analysis. We're going to focus more today on the critical path and how that allows us to determine the minimum time to complete a project. Right, well, we talked about these things in our last video. A network diagram, which is just a visual representation of a precedence table. We talked about the words node and arc, and we're going to talk more about these in this video. Right, straight into example 2. Remember, example 1 was in our last video. Here's a precedence table, no context, but we have activities A through to activity H. And the duration for these activities are measured in minutes. Here's the network diagram that we're going to show you how to draw. Right, let's start with activity A. There's a dash under the precedence column, which means there's no activity required beforehand, which means it's our starting activity. So here's activity A, here's the node. Remember, there's 6 boxes that make up a node. We're only going to fill in the middle 2, A for activity A and the 1 for 1 minute. We're going to worry about the other 4 boxes in another video. Right, activities B and C require activity A to be done beforehand. So we're going to have 2 nodes coming off A to get to B and C. And each of these activities require 2 minutes to do. Activities D and E, each of these require activity B to be done beforehand. So we're going to have 2 nodes coming off activity B to get to activities D and E. And each of these activities require 3 minutes to do. Activity F requires activity C and D to be done beforehand. So we need to have a node coming off nodes C and D. And you can see activity F requires 2 minutes to complete. Activity G requires activity E to be done beforehand. So we need a node coming off E to get to activity G. And activity G requires 1 minute to complete. And finally, activity H requires activities F and G to be completed beforehand. So we need a node coming off F and G, and activity H requires 3 minutes to complete. So this here is our network diagram for this example, for this precedence table. Now your network diagram may look slightly different as long as your nodes and precedences all match up to the corresponding table. Right, we're going to get from activity A to activity H in a number of ways. Here's our first way, A to B to E to G to H. And if I add up all the total duration times, I get 10 minutes. I could go from A to B to D to F to H, and I add up my total times to get 11 minutes. Or I could go from A to C to F to H, and my total duration adds up to 8 minutes. Now, out of all the possible options I can get from A to H, it is the option that is the longest time is called the critical path. So the critical path for this example is from activities A to B to D to F to H. And my critical path time is 11 minutes. Now the 11 minutes represents the minimum time to complete the project. We can get this entire project done in 11 minutes. And I'll show you how we can do this. We're going to show you more detail later on, but here's our 11 minutes, and here's our critical path. That's going to be completed by what we're going to call team 1, a team of workers or people. And you can see activity A takes 1 minute, B takes 2, D takes 3, F takes 2, and H takes 3. Now, while team 1 are doing the critical path activities, we could have a second team in working on the other activities, working on things like activity C while activity B's been done, and activity E could be done while activity D's been done. And we can complete those so they are ready to go at each step of the way. All right, well that's us. So thanks for watching, and we will get on to the next video, which explores this in more detail.